como un colibrí. Si salgo corriendo hacia el camino, llevo mi casa en el corazón. Como un carrusel, como un carnaval, como la lleva encima el caracol.
I wanted to interview Kevin today about the way he learns language because it's really different and I don't think it's easily duplicated. But before that, what did Miguel say to you today?
Miguel's one of the workers here on campus, and he saw my white shirt, and I haven't worn a dress shirt all 2 weeks that we've been here. He said, "Oh wow, you look really great. You look like a cowboy."
A cowboy.
I have no idea why he thinks that. Hilarious.
Maybe it's a translation between cowboy and gentleman, you know?
Maybe so.
Something like that.
Anyway, it's one of those things that makes traveling fun.
Yes, it is. So, you said to me about learning language the first week that you were stubborn and lazy and rebellious. Yes.
I am definitely all three. And I have a background for that. I took French in the 8th and 9th grade and I was terrible. And I just didn't do well in language, and I thought I can't learn the languages. But I noticed that with all the songs they taught us, like Rudolph La Dame en Nez Rouge, I learned all the words, memorized everything, sang it well. Songs I was fine, but everything else I just basically a D student.
And then in German.
And then I went to college, and I had to have a language for my major. And I thought, well, German's cool. I'm gonna learn that, And I failed the first semester. I mean, completely flagged it, and really felt bad about it because I just wasn't good at memorizing vocabulary lists, and I never got the grammar rules, never. And then I went back the second semester, and I did just as poorly. And it was a German lady who was teaching me then, and I begged her. I said, please give me a D so I can pass and graduate.
Yeah.
And that's how I graduated from college. But I was terrible in language. So then I got a chance to do a two-year missionary service in Salzburg, Austria. And I have no idea why that group picked me, because didn't you see my grades in college?
Right.
They were terrible. But I got picked. I think it was just the Lord's timing.
Right.
And I went to Salzburg, and within 6 months I was fluent.
Right.
Just
in German.
right off the street. But my learning style, I figured out then.
Yes.
And used later as an English teacher, was in the context. If I'm in a conversation, say I'm motivated to make a friend, or I'm motivated to say a word because I want to make a friend, or I want to be understood and I want to understand them. That's different from sitting in a classroom where it's not important to understand these 20 words for a test.
Right.
And I was not motivated. And so I quickly learned German. And I mean fluid, good pronunciation, the whole ball of wax. And that's fantastic. So I'm a little more sensitive to my English students who maybe have a problem with a little bit of grammar or vocabulary lists.
Right.
Try to give them a different approach to learning, maybe figure out their learning style. And that's really helped my teaching, my profession.
Right. I wanted to add that our profession has been teaching ESL, English as a Second Language. And one of the things that has to do with learning a second or third or whatever language is that you have passive learning skills, which are listening and reading, because those are just more passive. You don't have to work as hard. And then you move to active learning skills, which are writing and speaking. And it's common to go from the passive to the active, but Kevin he skips the passive part literally and jumps right into the active part, and that's one reason he's able to learn really quickly, and it just suits his style. Someone told me back in 1990 that the key to pronunciation in any language was the letter or sound R. I've given that a lot of thought. If you think about it, if you're a language person, if you're not, this is not going to be interesting. The Asian LR is combined, not all Asian languages, but for example, Chinese and Korean. It's a mixture. It's not like L and R, it's together. The French R, I can't even do. I know it's really different. The German R, I did figure out, is very different from the French R, the Spanish R, the English R. It is distinctive. And when we teach English to students, wow, getting the R sound, we always tell them, let's practice growling, you know, and we would just be like, "Rrr," and they never made that sound before in their lives. So R is it's really different. So Spanish, when I turned 40 years old, I set it as my goal to learn how to do the Spanish R. And I didn't have any guidance, but I knew what it was supposed to sound like. I was teaching English in a Virginian school at the time, middle school, and I would walk around the halls, and I started with an R-D sound. So it'd be like, der, der. And then I was like, and then as the months progressed, this took months of practice. I'm not exaggerating. So if you care about pronunciation, it's work. It's work. And so I figured out that I needed more air. And so I started blowing more. So it was more like a hara, hara, hara. And I was getting really excited because I got that little bit of a trill. And then I realized I needed more air, and then I needed to add voice to that sound. So, and so like in the word for train, ferrocarril, you've got 2 double R's, and it's work. It's different. Your mouth muscles are doing things they don't normally do. Personally, we really care about pronunciation, and maybe that's because we're English teachers, and I've had students in advanced English. Once I was teaching at a community college, and I had a student in advanced English that I could not understand a word he said, not one word. It was so embarrassing because he's in advanced English. So that's my pep talk about R. So when we got here 2 weeks ago, tomorrow,
Right.
You knew, I tried to count it up. I think you knew 5 words in Spanish.
Well, I might have known passively maybe 50,
I doubt it.
but I didn't
no.
speak more than 10.
I guarantee you did not know 50
Okay,
words.
well, you know, you diagnosed it, you know.
Because I have had some Spanish classes. Kevin has not. And the reason I know you did not know those words is because if you knew them, you would have used them.
True.
That's your personality.
Usamos. We use them.
And so when Kevin learns a word, he uses it immediately.
Inmediatamente.
And I mean like 5 times that day. And then it's kind of cemented in his brain.
Well, it's fun.
Yeah.
And I'm looking, you ever, try to fit a phrase into a conversation?
Yeah, it's
I
kind
try
not
to-
easy. No.
In English, you learn a new word, you want to use that word. So I'm kind of that way in Spanish and other languages. I want to use it and see if it
Yeah.
actually worked.
When I see you, so I was going to compare. So 2 weeks ago, you knew maybe 10 words.
Mm-hmm.
One of them was, mi esposa habla un poquito español.
español. My wife knows a little bit of Spanish.
He said that to probably 50 people in our marriage. It got me in all kinds of trouble saying that I speak some Spanish. So now, 2 weeks later, today I was watching you in class in amazement because you were speaking in full sentences to the teacher and telling about your day or whatever the subject was. And I looked at Kevin and I said, hablas español.
I said, sí.
You are speaking Spanish. I cannot believe it.
Hablo más español que
Yes.
el pasado semana.
See, that's right.
I know more Spanish than I did last week.
So when we're teaching other students English, they don't normally go from 0 to complete sentences with 6, 7, 8 words in it within 2 weeks. And that's why I wanted to talk to you about it. When I see you learning a language, it's like someone is throwing basketballs to you, one after the other. Every second, another basketball, and you pick it up and you just throw it towards the goal without really aiming. You may or may not hit it, and that's what you're doing with words and sentences. You throw it out there, and you might get corrected, you might not, but you're throwing them out there really fast, one after the other, trying, and it takes a lot of energy.
no miedo, no fear. And I prefer to play basketball shooting 3-ball all the time. I don't want to be I'm too short. I don't want to be under the rim trying to shoot up a two-point shot. I want the 3-ball. And a 3-shot ball is a lot easier, a lot more fun. I miss most of them, but that's sort of like the way I speak Spanish.
That's really what I see. It's just super interesting. So what I've also thought about is your system of learning language is not really something another person could duplicate
I wouldn't recommend it.
Unless they have your personality.
Right, I wouldn't recommend it. Yeah.
Right.
Everybody figures out their own learning style. You know, after 40 years of teaching, you figure out learning styles.
Right.
Especially your own. And I think we've just both gotten there to that point.
But Kevin is right behind me in Spanish. That's how I feel. So I've said before, the last time I learned Spanish or studied Spanish was 20 years ago. I had 1 semester. And I would say that I was something like a high beginner when we came here.
Gracias, mi esposa linda. Thank you, my dear wife.
And he's caught up with me. That's what I'm saying. In 2 weeks, he knows just a little less than I do. And I'm trying. I'm really applying myself. I do my homework. I do Duolingo, which is an app for language learning, every single day. I never miss a day.
It's never too old to really learn something. Just saying.
That's right. So anyway, if any of you are interested in learning a language, you know, this is just another perspective. And I agree. I mean, you want to tell your age? Are you opening that?
I'm 66.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And this is a brand new language for you.
So I failed when I was really young and in college, but I did really well when I became, you know, a lot more mature.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Most people are the opposite.
That's true.
El perro de Rita me irrita. Dile a Rita que cambie el perro por una perrita.